Understand as a broker, you have different risks than the market in general. So we're not really affected by the market going up or down. That doesn't really affect our day-to-day business. Yes, we have clients who are losing buildings and losing properties because they have to give it back to the bank again, that story that we talked about earlier, and losing equity. But our business model doesn't really change. We just need movement.
You just need to make deals.
We need transactions.
So,
right. Yes, does my transaction size go down now because the value is less? Of course. The same property used to be worth $30 million and I'm trading it now for 10. The size of the deal is smaller, but the volume is there. And that's all I really need. As the broker, you just need the trades and put yourself in the intersection of where the trades are.
That's the answer.
That's the answer.
Welcome to the Middle Class Podcast, Reb Yosef Katz. Why did I say Reb Yossi? I don't know. Are you a rabbi?
I always say about us brokers, we answer to whatever you call us.
Ah, okay. See, I'm also kissing up to Yossi today. Real estate, today's topic. I'm just going to call it real estate. But Yossi is the principal and founder of ARG Realty Group. That's Atlas Realty Group, commercial brokerage. And I really love this topic. I'm not so knowledgeable in it other than that I invest in real estate and I recommend clients to invest in real estate as part of their portfolios. But I'm eager to learn about how you built your business. And this is for the audience of those people that are looking to build their careers in real estate, as well as invest in real estate. And we're going to hear it from an expert, a very relatable expert, someone who built from scratch, and started from scratch, a couple years ago. And we're going to really, really get into the deep dive of the topic of real estate, which is a popular Jewish business, and that is an understatement. And maybe you'll help me.
Understatement of the year. Yeah.
Understatement of the year. Oh yes, that's good to know because I'm not so in the field.
Right.
But maybe you'll answer for us why it's such a popular Jewish business. So let's start with Yossi introducing yourself, just a basic introduction so people know who you are. And then I'll start asking some really deep questions.
Oh, I'm looking forward to all the deep questions. So, name's Yosef Katz, or Yosef Katz as I go into business. Born and raised in Montreal, Canada. One of 11 children. My parents were both in chinuch. My dad's Rosh Kollel today, still today.
Wow, this is loaded.
My mother is a big speaker, actually. Runs around, still gives Kala classes, teaches all Kalas.
What happened to you, Yossi? Where'd you go off?
A bunch of tapes out there. Yeah. You guys can listen to them at a different time. So born in Montreal, went through the yeshiva system, went to Israel, came back after the Mir to Far Rockaway, joined Shayashuv and Touro College. There was only two yeshivas then who let you into college. So it was either Shayashuv or it was Chaim Berlin. So came to Far Rockaway for that, went to college, was going to go to law school. That was the thought process I was going to do. Instead, needed something to do for a couple of months and joined a company, commercial real estate. I remember closing my first deal 7 months in, closed my first deal. I made $60,000 at that time. Still remember the property. Thought I was the richest person in the world. Still remember that feeling. The best feeling of my life. Or one of, I shouldn't say the best. My kids might be maybe on top of that.
Good diplomacy over there.
Exactly. Thought we made it. And never looked back. Never looked back. So that was 2005 when I started in commercial real estate. Opened my own firm with a couple of partners in 2019, right before COVID. That was Atlas Realty Group. Mm-hmm. And this is where we are today.
So a lot of stuff you just said, I know it sounds very basic.
Correct.
But so you went through the yeshiva system. First of all, you're an out-of-towner, which is great. Montreal, that's out of town?
Montreal is definitely out of town.
Yeah, okay, good. Just make sure I don't want to get anyone insulted.
Right, small time out of town.
Oh, okay. Yes. It's not like other places. Right. So we went through the yeshiva system, coming from a yeshivish background, I guess you can say.
For sure.
Yeah, not afraid to say it. Okay.
Not afraid to say it at all.
Good. You see that this fits with John's podcast, how you don't have to conform, a nonconformist.
Embrace the past.
Okay. I don't want to get myself in hot water. So you went from the yeshiva system to real estate. Tell me a little bit, because that's where we're at with a lot of people, is that they never had any college or educational background in business at all, and they're coming from yeshivas.
Right.
And how did that happen? So you were in the Mir, you said?
I was in the Mir.
And then you went into real estate. So what was that process from the Mir to real estate?
Well, there is a break. So I am a college grad. I actually graduated Turo and do have a degree. Not that I have a BS in finance. That's my degree. So I was in the middle, right? I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I thought I was going to be a lawyer. That was I have two brothers who are attorneys. So that was the thought process. But again, I don't use any of my college knowledge for what I do. I think that's, now again, how to learn and how to study, maybe that you bring forward. But what I actually learned in college, you're not using for real estate.
You went through 4 years of college?
It was 2.5.
The
Landers, the Turo Special.
Turo Special.
Yeah, it was yeshiva in the morning, and then we went to college in the afternoon and at night.
Not John Hopkins or what else do they have today? The degrees that you get from
the online degrees, right? The online degrees.
The BTL is 90% of it, and then they have 10% is.
We had a couple of credits, and I didn't think they had all that process as they have now. I know my son's going through it now, and he has all these credits he's getting from being while he learns in Eretz Yisrael. Yeah, we didn't have that.
We don't want to talk about that. So you went to college, and but you're saying important piece of information that you're saying that to get into your field, you didn't need the education piece, so to speak.
Correct.
Okay.
I do feel that there's a reason why a lot of young kids coming in and a lot of young kids in our office, and we've seen throughout the time who've come in, don't have college degrees. Mm-hmm. And that's not a problem. It's not a problem. It's not an issue. Sometimes it's even better. I like the yeshiva kids coming in. They know how to think. Mm. They're
not too formal.
They're not too formal, which is a good thing in our field. But that's probably the reason why you see a lot of the young Jewish kids getting into real estate, why they get into healthcare as well. You don't need those big degrees. Mm-hmm. That's probably why they're so popular, those two fields right now.
That's all it is? It's the easiest.
With the young Jewish crowd.
Uh-huh. You don't need an education. Okay. That sounds great. Right. Okay, so again, back to that question. So you were in the Mir, so you went to college, and that's when you had a break. You weren't working. You were just studying full-time, like learning in the morning?
No, I've been working my whole life, actually. I was never not working. Again, growing up in a family, I never want to say we were poor, but we didn't have any extras. One of 11. We had what we needed. I never thought I was missing anything. It's interesting people ask me that question going back. I never felt like I was missing anything. Mm. But we definitely didn't have any extras. So I worked my whole way through. Always working in the summer, working extras, working again. I've had more jobs. We talk about it sometimes with my brothers and my friends. I mean, you go back in history, all the jobs I've done in this world, it's been a lot of them. I worked in a bakery at nights.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what did you need the money for? Just to save?
Just to live. Just to live. I always paid my own bills. Even throughout Israel, I was always paying my own bills.
Well, when did you start paying your bills?
Okay, so
I'm curious to hear about
14, 15, anything extra I wanted, I had to actually have the money for. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like you go to your parents and say, hey, Dad, I need a 50, I need 100. I want new clothes. No, that's not how it worked.
You wanted to go skiing, you had to pay for it.
Correct. Correct.
Wow. So you're really a newspaper boy. Did you deliver newspapers?
I never delivered newspapers.
Oh, so that's a classic story.
Right.
Deliver newspapers.
I never actually did that. Definitely had some fun ones. I hung custom drapes for a couple of years. That was one of my jobs throughout college. I worked in a bakery, worked in a fruit store.
Oh, wow.
It keeps going. Worked in a canteen for a couple of summers.
Right. Waiter in camp?
Waiter in camp, yeah.
Wow, that really talks to our audience because they're humble beginnings, so to speak. People are looking to build and grow and get better in their business. So you really were okay. Wow. So you really had humble beginnings. So again, you were in school and you were what we were saying. You were in school and you had to work
yeshiva, college, and working. Correct. Still working.
What were you doing?
All three.
What were you doing while you were in school?
It was whatever I could keep busy with. I believe it was the the drapes. I was doing some of that. And I think I was working at a bakery at night. Yeah. Working at a bakery at night is what I did, decorating cakes.
And at this point, how did you fund your education?
So we had scholarships for education.
How'd you get scholarships?
Most of it. Turo had all these different programs at that point to fund it. My parents did help out a little bit with school. Mm-hmm. They definitely did help out what they were able to. I'm always grateful for that.
Did you take out student loans? You took out student loans?
We had some student loans, but nothing crazy. Turo wasn't that expensive. I remember once you had all the different programs, it wasn't that expensive.
When we're talking about what, like 2001? What are we talking about?
This is 2001.
So the Turo really only started in the 90s, I think, right? They were, okay. So the night program was a couple $1,000s. Again, money, but nothing like today's challenges. That for sure not. Wow.
Right.
Okay, so you were going to school for something you weren't sure about, and then, right? It's a classic example. He was in school for dentistry, and he ended up building up a $3 billion business.
Right.
Okay, you're developing that story as we go.
That's what people did. They went to school, right? You needed to figure out what you were doing in life.
Be responsible.
Be responsible. Go to school, get a degree, and then figure it out, I guess.
Right. But you didn't become a dentist or a lawyer.
That's correct.
I think you're happy about that, right?
Couldn't be happier.
Okay, good. But so then, how did you get into the real estate field?
So
while you're in school, I guess, or after.
Yeah. So I was graduating, was gonna go to law school. That was the game plan. Took my LSATs, and I needed something to do for 6 months. And it was a family friend who was working at that first company, a place called GFI. And he said, hey, why don't you come in and be a junior broker, see how you like it? And I'm like, sure, why not? It sounds fun, sounds interesting. Mm-hmm. First real job. I went into the city, downtown Manhattan, and we sat there. It was different times. We did have computers. Wow. We did have computers, but I remember they gave us a book. It was called the Owner's Book, Big Blue Owner's Book. Some of the oldies will know about the Big Blue Owner's Book. And it had every single person who owned a property in New York City. And they gave us that and a phone. They said, call and see who wants to buy a building, maybe wants to sell a building. And that's what we did. Every day we came in and we just called people. Wow. One after another until we found someone who wanted to sell a building.
So you were in school. You were in school and you took this job as
graduated. Right when I graduated.
Right when you graduated. Sorry, yeah.
Right when I graduated Turo, right before going to law school, started at and loved it. Absolutely loved it. Loved the challenge.
Really?
It was the highs of it were special.
So, okay, so let me understand, because I want people to understand the basics of real estate. Maybe this is boring to other people, but so you enter a real estate firm. It's called GFI. Does that stand for anything?
I don't even know. I'm not even sure what it stood for. I worked there for 15 years. You would think I know, but
I guess it doesn't even matter who you work for in this field.
That's true.
Right? You just do deals.
Yeah, I guess.
It doesn't matter if you work for GFI or FGI. Or FYI. So you go into a real estate firm, mm-hmm. and your job is to make phone calls to do what? And how do you make money? I'm sorry, it's so basic, but...
Basic, great question. It's actually a great question. Some people don't even know. It's a great question.
And we had this with the mortgages, like people have no ideas, and ABC is so important. So right. You get into the real estate firm from graduation. And you do what? And how do you make money?
Okay, so let's start. Definition of a broker. Let's say, what is a broker?
Okay.
So a broker is the person who puts deals together, transactions together. So you call the procuring cause is the actual word. And your job is to make an introduction from someone who wants to sell a property to someone who wants to buy a property, mm-hmm. and be the cause of the sale.
What's it called?
Procuring cause.
Procuring cause.
That's the technical term for it.
Okay.
And you get paid because you are the cause of this transaction. That's a simple terminology of what a broker is. So what does that mean? So it starts off as the young person who doesn't know anything, and he just starts calling people and says, hey, do you want to sell your building? And it starts as simple as that. And someone says, hey, I would sell my building. And then, okay, let's get the information to the building and put together what we call the rent roll. This is what everybody pays in the building, and put together the expenses. And you take this sheet of paper that is all the information on the building, and you go to potential buyers. You say, hey, do you want to buy this building? And it's literally that simple.
Call people, find the building
right.
to sell. Now, the rent roll piece, who does all that financial stuff?
So again, on the simpler buildings, you do it yourself and you learn how to do that. That's part of learning how to be a broker, how to analyze a deal. And we'll talk about as we get on about why brokerage is the gateway to a lot of different businesses. And you see a lot of successful people in the industry, not just who are brokers, but whether they own or they manage or they insurance guys who all started as brokers. We'll talk about that a little later on. But this simplicity is you bring it in, you'll put it together on a sheet. A lot of these buildings are pretty simple. They have 10 tenants who are paying rent. And the expenses, he pays his real estate tax, and he pays his insurance, and he pays his maintenance. It's not that complicated.
And how did you learn? You just learned that.
So I was taught.
You had did you have a good mentor when you?
I have a great mentor. I do like to say he's a famous guy, but I had a Rebbe in the business, a fellow by the name of Aaron Youngrice. A lot of people know him. He taught me a lot of what I know. And not because he taught me, I watched him. So when I first started off, he actually used to pick me up. He used to go to the office at like 6:30 in the morning. That was a workaholic. I think he still does that. He used to pick me up on his way in for Rockaway. He used to get out and pick me up and drive me to the city. And that's how we started. And I used to listen to him on the phone as a way in. I wasn't allowed talking to him in the car because he was working already at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Wow. Bygone era.
And learned a lot just from watching him. So for sure, you definitely need someone who's going to teach you the business and learn from someone who's doing it.
You need, point number one, emphasis to get into real estate, you need a mentor.
You need a mentor, you need a Rebbe. But that's everything in life.
Okay.
I don't know if that's just real estate, but yes, you need a mentor.
There is such a vibe with real estate is that you're wheeling and dealing, right? But this is
Yes, wheeling and dealing, but you have to know the processes, understand it. And without someone teaching you, you're never going to be successful.
Look at that.
Right. We had people, I always said the worst thing for someone to do, like we have these new guys who came in and you have a guy who shows up one day and he closes a big deal in 3 months in. And I always said that was the worst thing for people because then they thought they knew everything.
It's the worst thing.
The worst thing. Those guys are hardly ever successful. You usually see the successful guys, the guys who struggle at the beginning, takes them a while to do their first deal because they appreciate, they understand it's a process. It's not just, hey, I made one call and I made a second call and I made a deal. That's not how it works.
So would you say someone, and I see this in my business also in financial planning, people who come in to get clients, they go after something which I don't know, this term boils my blood. I'm sorry to say it, but I don't know why really. They go after the big fish, the whales.
Right.
When you start in real estate, is that a good thing to do? Or are you supposed to start on something small?
There's nothing wrong with having the big fish.
Nothing wrong with having
There's nothing.
What do you go for?
In fact, a lot of firms, what they do is they give out to the young guys, everyone gets their whales. And there's a lot of firms that do it. Well, they'll give you the 5 whales, keep that in your back pocket, and those are the people you should dream for. That being said, your first deal is probably not going to be with the whale. You got to learn the business. Again, real estate is not something, it's not one call and then you make another call. That's not what it is. It's about showing up every day and consistency. So it's how many calls did I make today? How many leads did I have today? How many showings did I have this week? So on and so forth. How many deals did I send out? It's all a numbers game. Yes, as you become more successful, your numbers and your efficiency will increase. But it's all about day in and day out showing up.
You see, I'm telling you from I had a clean slate in my mind as far as what the real estate business is. And this is completely changing the picture that I had. Completely. Consistency, showing up to work, making phone calls, organizing your data.
Yeah, I'm glad we're putting that to bed. Right, everyone thinks, oh, you made one phone call and you made a crazy amount of money.
Right, or your job is to go for that big $300 million acquisition or something like that. And again, there's no problem with it.
Correct.
It's okay to do a deal like that. Don't worry about it. Yes. I wouldn't complain, but that's not how you build a business, so to speak. You're supposed to be going for everything and anything, I guess, slowly but surely, right?
Yeah. You're building a reputation. You're building a business. We tell people, again, we interview kids all the time who are young people who are coming into the business and looking to get into the business. And I tell them all the time, it's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. It's a profession. This isn't just a get quick rich scheme. That's not what we do. It's a profession. It's a way of life. And this is how you're going to build your business for the rest of your life. That's how you have to look at it.
It's a profession.
1,000%.
Real estate is a profession.
Exactly.
I'm just meditating on that for a second. Because no one shows up in suits.
If they take anything out of this interview, take it out of that. Real estate is a profession.
It's worth it just for that.
Just for that.
Real estate is a profession. It's a business that you build. And it sounds like you train. Well, how many people are in your firm now, ARG?
Right now, we're up to 14 total people. Of that is 12 of the brokers, 2 support staff.
Mm-hmm. 2 support staff. You don't need that much. Do you need a lot of support staff in real
Not
estate?
a ton. We have good support staff. You definitely need capable people. Remember, they're running all your marketing. They're running all your setups that we called, which is put together the property information, running all your social media, running the office. So there's a lot of work to be done. But thank God we have great people.
Okay, so again, back to the beginning, the humble beginnings. Yeah. So you show up as a broker, a procuring cause. Okay, gotcha.
There you go.
Thank you. I've learned that. And putting things on a sheet and getting financials is something you pick up. It sounds like that was something that wasn't so difficult for you, and you had a mentor. So now you have a potential buyer and a potential seller, which comes about through just making good old phone calls, basically, right?
Relationships,
getting
Correct.
Relationships, calling. You did cold calls, I'm assuming.
I still cold called every day.
You
Still
still
today. Almost every, I want to say every day, but it's not every day, but almost every day I'll still cold call. It's
Really?
the most important skill in our business. You have to be able to cold call. If you can't cold call, you don't last.
Even how many, you're in this almost over 20 years.
2005, so 21 years. Yeah.
And you're still cold calling.
Still cold calling. Love it.
Okay.
Love it.
Okay, I want to talk about that in a second, but I'll get back to, I want to forget what I was talking about. So you have a buyer and a seller.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now how do you make money? You have give me numbers. What's a normal deal to expect when you're starting out? And
so ARG's deal size, we specialize in we're like $2 to $20 million market size is where we currently broker, 2 to 20. We do primarily multifamily. We could talk about that, which is the 6-story elevator buildings. That's primarily what we sell. But we focus on New York.
Focus on New York.
We focus on. So ARG right now is New York, New York, New York. It is across all asset classes, but we do specialize in multifamily.
Okay, so there are a lot of terms there, but let's say again, to make money on a deal.
Sure.
So it's a $20 million deal, right? So you're the broker. How do you make money?
We find a seller. We'll find someone who expressed interest in selling. Now, again, when you first started, it was a little different, but now they'll usually hire you as your broker. So they'll come to and say, hey, Yosef, I know you know how to sell these assets. I have a property I'm looking to sell for whatever reason. We could talk about why people sell. For whatever reason, I'm looking to sell it. Please handle the transaction for me. So we'll, just like you would sell a house, we'll take an exclusive listing, we'll sign it up, we'll put together a sheet and a marketing memo, and we'll send it out. So it starts off with our marketing. We have currently 50,000 people on our email blast. We have all the brokers who are going to sit there and make all the phone calls, start the showings, bring the potential investors to the property, and finally settle on the best buyer for this property and instruct attorneys to send out a contract. They'll sign the contract. The buyer will go get financing for the property. And then usually 90 days later, he closes the transaction. And then we would receive our commission at that time.
Okay.
Which part was too much?
No, I'm sorry. I hope this is not boring to our audience, but I don't care. Because this is important information to get the ABCs of business, even where I am also in my field also, always going back to the fundamentals. What is a plan? What's security? But that's why it's so important to you have it 100% clear. So you make a transaction. What determines the commission rate on such a transaction?
So when you're signed up as an exclusive broker, the fee is usually negotiated then at the time of the agreement. So usually standard fees are right at about 3% of the total sales. So you sell a $10 million deal, the total commission would be $300,000.
Okay. $300,000. Okay.
Now, obviously that gets split, right? So that gets split among the brokers. Whoever's part of that transaction, you'll have the originating broker we call, and then the sales broker. So the person who originates the business and then the one who finds the end buyer. Sometimes that could be the same person, obviously. And obviously the house takes a piece as well. So that's how it gets split up.
House meaning your firm.
The firm.
Because your brand helps the deals.
Well, it's a brand, and you also, our firm, I mean, most firms are the same, but our firm pays all the expenses.
Uh-huh.
So we're paying, obviously, the rent. We're paying for all the programs. We're paying for the phones. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the brand.
Okay, so I think we got from A to Z in that, and just the basic process. So you closed your first deal. How did that? How was that? Do you remember how you? What did you do?
Oh, vividly remember. First, you always remember the first deals. I think everybody always remembers the first one. Yeah. Property was on Ithaca Street in Queens. I was cold calling, and a fellow said, "Hey, I would perhaps sell it." And I said, "Great, send me a rent roll." And he faxed over the rent roll. That's what people did those days. They faxed over rent rolls.
Faxes. Wow.
Right? So it was a list of all the what each tenant paid. And at that time, one of the senior brokers that I had took that paper and sold it to one of his clients. Probably sold it in a week and a half. That quickly.
Wow.
It took 90 days to close. That's usually how long it takes to close these transactions. So be ready for that. And so, yeah, I got my first check 7.5 months after I first started.
7.5 months. And I think it's a big piece to say, like in all businesses, there's something called the sales cycle.
Right.
So the sales cycle, you're saying, in other words, from the origination of the sale or the origination of the deal until you get paid is typically how long? 90 days?
So, no.
What could you expect as a new broker?
So there you go. That's two good questions. So let's talk about the sales cycle, and then we could talk about it as a new broker. It's a good question to have, and we get that question all the time. So the sales cycle, the actual cycle, that means from contract to closing, is anywhere between 60 to 90 days, approximately. Right? Remember, there's usually financing that's gotten on the property, and that always takes time. So that's the trend. However, that's from when you sign the contract. Keep in mind, from when we first get a listing, when we first have the first contact with some individual says, "Hey, Yosef, I would sell my building," till we actually get it to contract, can take months, can take years sometimes. Mm-hmm. Until, remember, if someone comes to say, "Hey, I want $10 million for the property," and the property is only worth $5 million, till I get him to where he needs to be, then actually to effectuate a transaction can take years. So we've had listings that sit on my desk for a couple of years before we actually transact on it.
Okay, so that's so crucial. So how long did that first deal take? You said it went pretty quickly.
That deal went pretty quickly. So it's about 7.5 months, which is quick.
7.5 months.
From when I started. First deal, Ithaca Street, made, like I said, made $60,000 on it. Yeah, thought I was a billionaire. Really did. Really did.
It sounds like that song from the Thank You Hashem Boys.
Thank You Hashem songs. There you go.
I don't know if anyone knows what I'm talking. I'm sure they know. Yeah, anyways, so 7.5 months.
I'm sure your listeners all know.
Hopefully.
Exactly. But what I tell younger brokers is you're going to college. And I have this conversation over and over again. I love to tell it to them. You're coming in. It's a 2-year commitment. You're going back to college. Mm-hmm. So don't expect to make money year 1, year 2. Yes, you can expect to make something. But if you're going to make it, it's year 3 when you actually make it. That's when you really know. That being said, you learn so much in real estate. And this is the great part of the conversation. I think your listeners will love. This is what's for them. I think this is an important part of it. So real estate and commercial brokerages especially, you learn all aspects of the business that you wouldn't learn in any other profession. So day one, obviously you learn how to cold call, right? You learn how to source deals. So important, right? If you know how to source material and source deals, you'll never starve in your entire life. But then you learn from the management side, you learn how to underwrite insurance. You'll learn how to do the financing and underwrite for financing part of it, how to raise money, because you see that side of the business as well. So it's really the full life cycle of real estate that you learn as the broker.
So that's what you're saying.
So that's it. So we had many people who came into the business or worked under us or worked alongside us and are no longer brokers, but are very, very successful because they take those skills and whether they go, "Hey, I'm buying my own property," or whether they're now running an insurance firm or they're running a management firm, there's so many different avenues to make money that brokerage should be for the young guys. It's a great place to start.
Saying to go into the field of real estate.
If you want to be anywhere in the field of real estate, start as a broker.
Start as a broker, because that's how you learn the profession.
You're right. You learn all aspects of it. You see all sides of the business. It's the only place you see all sides, right? When you go work for someone who's just buying real estate, so yeah, he'll buy, let's call it an active buyer, will buy 5, 10 properties a year, right? As a broker, you're seeing 100 transactions a year. So you see so much more. You're a part of so much more. It really is the best place to learn.
Gotcha. Okay, so I have a lot of questions on that, but let's go back to you.
Sure.
Back in the
We're going back to my yeshivish background.
No.
Okay.
I'm yeshivish background. We took care of. We got through the trauma. I'm sure you went to many years of therapy for that.
There you go.
Yeah. I'm joking.
Not confirming.
Confidentiality. Again, it's all about vulnerability, and people feel comfortable hearing others who've gone through it.
Yeah, for sure.
So we're past that part. But as a broker, 7.5 months later, you've closed your first deal. Did you have financial responsibilities at that point in your life?
So no financial I wasn't married at the time. I started when I was single. I got married.
How old were you then when you started?
I was 23.
Okay.
I believe I was 23.
Okay.
23, 24. Got married when I was 26.
Okay.
So it took 2 years. I was in the business for 2 years before I got married. So I had financial responsibilities. I had to pay my rent.
How did you pay your rent? You had savings.
We had some savings, and I worked. I worked at night. I worked weekends.
What did you do?
I worked Sunday. I was delivering.
You were doing jobs, side hustles.
Delivering packages. Any side hustle I could get my hands on. Any side hustle I could do. Whatever the limited amount of time we were doing. For sure. Again, rent had to be paid, and I needed money for food. There wasn't an option. There wasn't an option.
You were being supported in Kyle.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
Exactly. Wasn't an option.
Wow.
So it did take, but once I got married, so again, didn't have a lot of money, was just making it. Again, it takes a couple of years. It takes a couple of years. You got to see it through. But those were the good times. And we could talk about the bad cycles and good cycles because it's a very interesting conversation, an important conversation to have.
What are you saying within the career?
Yeah, within the career. Because the broker's different. There's no weekly paycheck.
So that's exactly what I'm saying. Right. So you got married with a cyclical business.
Right.
How did you? Again, this is for the middle class. Not only the middle class, but that's a big part of who's listening. How did you get by in those years? You had some savings. What were you doing to help support?
So some savings. My wife worked full times. When we first got married, she worked full time, so she supported us as well.
What was she doing?
She was a dental hygienist for a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's when my wife started.
Okay.
She had a good job. She had a good job that definitely helped. It definitely helped. But it's very interesting. So the brokerage business, cyclical, it's important. It's an important thing to tell the young guys. So remember, they're big checks that you make, but they don't come as often. And especially the younger guys, they really don't come out that often. So, and again, it's hard to drive it into their heads, but I see the young guys and he closes a big deal and the next morning he comes in with the watch. And I'm like, no, that's not how you do it.
Oh, man.
That's not how you do it. But again, they need to do it. Again, everyone has to do what drives them. So some people need that to keep them motivated. So you have to understand it. But again, I've been through enough cycles. So there's times when you could go a full year without closing a deal. And especially during the downtimes, 2008 and 2009, I mean, I think I closed one transaction that year. Each year, I think we did one deal. So being able to stick through it is what makes it, again, that's what the business is about. Who can stick through and who could outlast.
So at let's say 2008, 2009, you're 4 or 5 years in the business and you're in a tough cycle.
Right.
You're married at that point.
Correct.
And your wife is working, and that's how you got by.
Yeah, I saved money. That was, I guess I was, growing up without a lot, I learned how to save from a young age.
You were responsible with your money.
That was the one I had. I never went and spent every dollar I had. That wasn't me. We saved it. We put it away. So when the tough parts came, I was able to manage. Now, again, it was stressful. I remember being in that office and looking at guys around us. I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
But nothing was happening.
Nothing was happening. Absolutely nothing was happening. But you adapt, you pivot. So for me, that was in 2009 and 10, what I started doing was calling the banks. I don't know if people remember maybe a lot of the listeners don't remember that time.
What, 2008?
You had the crash. 2008 was the crash.
Yes.
Right? The Bear Stearns crash.
Bear Stearns,
right?
Yeah.
Right? So everything dried up. Zero transactions. There was no financing. Zero transactions.
Right.
Nothing was happening.
Right.
What I started doing 2009 is I finally picked my head up and said, okay, where's the next transactions? Where's the next piece of business? Where's it going to come from? And I started calling all the banks. That's what I did. I spent every day calling the different banks who had the mortgages on these properties and saying, guys, you're not getting paid anymore because your borrower's not paying you. What are you doing? And 2010, before the market picked up, that's what I did. I was selling a lot of debt for all these banks. That's what kept me busy.
Explain that, Yossi. Selling debt.
Selling debt. Interesting. Part of being a broker, but selling debt. So what is debt? When you buy a property, let's say you buy a property for $5 million, you don't have $5 million.
Right.
But you go to the bank and you say, hey, lend me $4 million and I'll put up $1 million. That's how almost every transaction goes down. It's why people buy real estate, because you could buy it without your money. You buy it with the bank's money. That helps you return, like you would know.
Leveraging. You're leveraging.
Leverage.
Right.
It's why real estate is still a great vehicle for investing and always will be. As long as the leverage is there, it's why people will be investing in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
So good cycles, and when everyone's paying their mortgage, everything's great. What happens when the market crashes? What happens right now, right? We'll get into New York City, what's happening.
I was thinking, yeah.
Right, with values just plummeting. What happens to the loans? So again, if I buy a property for $5 million and I take a $4 million mortgage, and now the property is worth $3 million. So the investor lost all his money. It was worth $5 million and now it's worth $3 million. He's wiped out. He owes the bank $4 million. What does the bank do?
Right. So they foreclose, right?
Bank could foreclose, but banks are not. So yeah, the easy answer is the bank forecloses. But now what? If you're the bank, you're Mr. Banker, you don't want the property. You don't know how to run the property. You wouldn't want to know what to do with it.
Right.
It's not your business. So what most banks do is they'll go and sell it. And they'll take this mortgage that they have, it's called debt, and they sell it. And they'll sell it to an investor who wants to buy it and go and own the property.
So they're going to buy the property with a $4 million mortgage on it?
No. So now, wait. It gets more interesting.
Okay.
If you're Mr. Investor, you say the property is only worth $3 million, I'm not giving you have a $4 million mortgage, but the property is only worth $3 million. I'm not paying you $4 million for debt that's only worth, the property is only worth $3 million. That means your mortgage now is worth $2 million.
Right.
Right. I still have to go get the building.
Right. I
still have to foreclose. I have to go make a deal with the borrower still and the owner.
Mm-hmm.
So so banks take a hit and they start selling it at discounts. It's the dirty word and banks don't like saying it, right? But that's what was happening. 2009, 10, that's what was going on. Banks were just liquidating their books just to recycle cash, get back into properties or mortgages that were paying again, because that's where their money's made. Their money's made when you pay your mortgage, that's how they make money. And that's what we did. That's what we did for about 2 years. Is all I did was sell these loans.
So you found a buyer for the property.
For the mortgage.
For the mortgage.
Yeah.
To sell. So again, let me just understand that. You're going to sell the mortgage that's owed to the bank.
We're going to sell the bank's mortgage.
The bank's mortgage.
To an investor who's going to go then use that mortgage to get to the property and get to the deed, it's called.
He's going to get ownership eventually of that property by buying out that mortgage. Listen, I'll tell you simply offhand, 2008, the big crash was because the banks were giving out mortgages like water on people that couldn't pay the mortgage.
Yes.
So there was tons of, what's it called again when a mortgage is defaulted on? There's a word for it.
What's a defaulted mortgage?
Whatever. Yeah. They weren't paying up their mortgage.
Yeah.
And that's what really caused the crash. They couldn't get, banks didn't have the money.
The word is it's an NPL or non-performing loan is what it's called, but it's a defaulted mortgage. It's the same.
NPL.
NPL is the term.
Non-performing loan. Right. Mortgage-backed securities, that was the whole.
Yes.
Right? Because they pooled those mortgages into investments.
They did a little more. They pooled them, right, is what they were doing. And no one looked.
There was no regulation.
Well, it's a fascinating thing about the mortgage. It's a little bit of a tangent. Fascinating thing about the mortgage industry, right? So the people who write the mortgages, which are the banks, right, are incentivized. Why? How do they get paid? By how many loans they write.
Right.
So no one's incentivized to look. That's the real underlying problem with the mortgage industry in general, is everybody's incentivized. So the buyer of the property wants as big of a mortgage as he can get. The bank wants to give him as big a mortgage as they can, because the more money they give him, the more money they make. So no one's really incentivized to look.
Right.
So when the market's great and everyone's doing amazing, it's wonderful. But then the second you see something happen, all of a sudden the cracks start, and all of a sudden everyone starts looking again. Oh, why did you give this guy such a big mortgage? It didn't make any sense, right? Oh, well, no one was looking. And I got paid a bonus because I gave out more money. So the problem when the regulators are in on the game, just
That's
a little bit
happened.
of a tangent, is why you have these crashes every 10, 15 years, is why they come about.
So can you just say simply on the ground level what happened after 2008 for the mortgage business as far as regulations involved? And did that trickle down into doing real estate deals? Did it make it harder now that the 2008 are there things that are,
For sure. The regulations came into effect, and how you were able to write loans and oversight. There's definitely a lot more of it.
More oversight, right.
But it rebounds very fast.
Right.
Remember, everyone has to keep up. So I always say the real estate market is very interesting there because the rebound is so much quicker. I mean, the crash takes a couple of years, but the rebound is almost instantaneous. Because the second the financing comes back and the pricing starts rising, we'll talk about today's market and why people should start relooking it. Maybe we should probably go there.
Mm-hmm.
But the rebound is way quicker than people realize.
That's interesting.
Because the second you see it, we're sheep. We're sheep. Investors are sheep. And you hear that from a lot of big people. So the second people start getting back into it, and all of a sudden the banks are back and the equity is back, and people want to start putting money back into it, now we're competing again. And now it's bidding wars again. And the price just skyrockets overnight.
Funny, because the stock market is sort of the opposite in a way. The stock market crashes quickly and builds back quickly.
Right.
When you have a recession, it's usually the next year or two where it rebounds. I mean, like when COVID happened, it was down 40% or so. By the end of that year, it was already
Right, it came right back up.
And 2008 as well. By 2009, there was a pop. By 2010, it was already positive territory from the recession. So very good point, because now I want to talk about today's market, and that's really what's on my mind. So first of all, your business is, I don't want to lose the fundamentals. I'll maybe get back to it, but your business is in New York.
Yes.
Which all I hear about is the worst place to do real estate right now. I'm sorry if I'm an ignoramus, but that's number one. And the real estate market in general has been always it's terrible.
Terrible.
So
Correct.
How have you been managing this environment?
So it's a good question. Surprisingly, and then we'll talk about why it's terrible. Surprisingly, I've never been busier. So currently in New York City, in our office, we're closing about a deal a week, which is we're larger pace than we've ever done since I started ARG. So, which is very interesting and fascinating. People look at me like, well, what's going on, right? New York City real estate's down the tubes. And the answer is it's true. So let's go back a little bit and let's understand why it's down the tubes. That's, I think, step one. So we'll talk about rent stabilized in general, which is what I do a lot of. Rent stabilized, are you familiar with rent stabilized is?
Explain it.
So rent stabilized is New York City apartments have a limit to how much rent you can charge. So New York City is made up of about $2 million apartments. 1 million plus of them are rent stabilized, which is a designation given by the city. It's back to a World War II law that was put in place to help the soldiers coming back. It was rent controlled and rent stabilized. It's still here. Why? Doesn't make any sense, but it's here. So the government limits what you can charge and how you could increase the rents on the apartment. So for example, beautiful apartment, Upper Manhattan, Upper West Side, a 2-bedroom apartment. It's probably, the market is $4,000 for that apartment. You could only charge if whatever the legal rent is. Let's say that legal rent could be $1,000. That's what you're allowed charging. Okay. Pre-2019, there was a law that allowed you, when the unit became vacant, to renovate the apartment and then take that rent up to the legal allowable limit. So the tenant moves out, the landlord comes in, renovates this $1,000 apartment, puts in brand new appliances, brand new, takes it down to the studs, puts in probably $150,000 into that unit to rehab it. Now he gets to charge that $4,000.
Again, that means just the legal limit is different than the stabilized limit, right?
The legal, what we call the legal, is the stabilized number. So that's usually, it can be different, but when we say legal, that's the rent stabilized allowable number.
Okay.
However, when he did these renovations and he put in this money, the law gave you the ability to raise the rent and destabilize this unit. It was called, we're talking about destabilize the unit, and now charge whatever you could get on the open market. So for a landlord, the business model was, as long as when I first came to the business, and for as long as most people knew it, people didn't really care what you paid for these buildings because you were unlocking potential. And the owners didn't care. They said, hey, I'll get it in a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. I'm going to get that extra rent, so I'm playing the long game. And that was the business model.
By renovating.
Renovate the apartment, raise the rent, fix up the units, take care of your building.
Was there any rules on like how much you have to put in to get?
Yes.
Okay.
More rules. You're allowed charging, it was 1/40th. So 1/40th of every dollar you put into the property, that's what you're allowed to add onto the rent.
Oh, wow.
Up until you got to the limit, which was, it moved, but it was usually $2,500. So once that legal rent got above $2,500, it became destabilized. And then you're able to charge whatever you want.
Once you hit that point, okay.
Hit that threshold, now you get to charge whatever you want.
Okay, so that was the business plan.
That was the business model when I first started.
Okay.
Now, people did start taking advantage of it. And you did see a lot of people, again, when we were selling back in pre-2008 and then come back in 2011 up until 2018 or 2019 when they passed the law, they would come in and they would start buying out these units. So they would go to these tenants who had $1,000 rent and say, hey, I'm going to give you $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 to leave, right? They paid the tenant. They then renovated the unit and took the $1,000 rent up to market, up to the $4,000 rent. So you had people coming in and condensing this timeline. That was, again, people made a lot of money because they took a building, a 60-unit building, bought out 30, 40 tenants, renovated the building, and then flipped the building a year later and made 3x, 4x extra money.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think there was a tipping point. It was, people weren't happy about it. Tenants, the city wasn't happy about it. You're taking all these older tenants and you're throwing them out of their units, and that was the cry. And okay, we could talk about who was right and who was wrong. Come 2019, they passed a law, the rent stabilization law of 2019, and they eliminated raising rents on vacant apartments or raising rents through this program, which was called the IAI program, a renovation program, completely eliminated it.
Wow.
So now you have $1,000 rent. You're only allowed getting what the city allows you. Every year, the city puts out the legal allowable rent increase. It could go from anywhere from 0% up to about 3 or 4% per year. The city will tell you every year what you're allowed to charge, and that's the only way to raise the rent currently in New York City.
Wow.
So that's the history.
See where it's going. Yeah.
So now think about if you're a landlord. You own a property. This is a property you used to pay, when we talk about times rent roll, we used to sell these buildings for anywhere from, again, when I first started, it was 8, 9 times rent roll. At the height of the market in 2017, it was 15, 16 times gross rent these properties traded for. And they shut the door and they say no more rent increases. So whatever your current rent is, that's what it's going to be forever. And now obviously Mamdani's coming in and he's promising rent freezes. So even that little percent that you got, those 2 or 3% increases that you were expecting, that's gone as well. So think what that does to value.
Right.
And you're talking about crashing values. That's only one part. That's one part of New York City's issues. The other part is obviously the rising expenses, which from real estate taxes, insurance is way up, skyrocketing. Con Ed just went up, so your electric bill and your heating bills skyrocketed through the roof. So all the rising expenses. And then the third piece of the puzzle is all the regulations. So the city started cracking down, forcing you, whether it's the green energy bills they're passing, whether it's the different scaffolding laws or go through all the different regulations they keep passing. Every day they come up with another one, how you have to, or what you have to do to the building. And it just keeps going. It keeps going and going. And again, values now on the rent stabilized product, we're looking at anywhere from 50 to 70% drop of value from pre-2019.
Wow. I want to just understand one other thing. I'm sorry if I
went off on a tangent. I might have gone a little
No,
much.
This is great. Again,
Okay.
I want to hear the ins and outs. And people should hear the ins and outs because it all boils down to the fundamentals, like we're saying. But so let me just get those two numbers. You had let's say $1,000 a month, and then the $4,000 number again.
Right.
$1,000 a month was
what they're currently paying.
What they're currently paying.
And what you would get on the open market is the $4,000 number.
And to get to $4,000, you don't need to destabilize, right?
You didn't need you didn't technically have to destabilize, but you had to put in enough money into the unit to get it above the threshold, which was $2,500 and then $2,700.
Oh, so get above. So then there's a threshold of what you can charge.
And then once you could do that, then whatever you could get. Then it's open market, whatever someone will pay me.
And $4,000 was just an example of what the open
market. Of just what the open market is.
So, okay. So you got it's just three stages really before, let's say pre-2019, was what they're paying, what the maximum they can, or you're allowed to charge.
Correct.
And then the market.
What you would get if you had a non-regulated unit, which you have. I mean, there's many free market units in the city.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, many.
How does that work? Which ones are, which ones aren't?
So it's interesting. So properties that are built after 1970 are free market units.
Oh.
Okay. So that's just the newer stock, except if they were built under a tax program, but that's a different conversation. So the newer apartments are usually free market. And then units that were taken out of the program. So anything that was taken out of the program becomes a free market unit, and you could charge whatever someone will pay you.
Okay.
Right. What you're seeing now, by the way, which is classic supply and demand, and you could talk about that, because there's no new free market units anymore, right? Because they stopped it. So now what's happening to the rents on the free market units?
Why are there no free market?
There's no new ones. There's no new ones being created.
There's no new ones.
So what happens? There's no supply. You constrain supply, and price goes through the roof.
Uh-huh.
So right now in New York City, you're setting new records on rentals every single month because there's no new units.
Because those free market units,
right? There's a limited supply of them. Mm-hmm. There's more and more people asking for them.
To buy them, you mean?
Not to buy them, to rent them.
To rent them.
Yeah, young kids young professionals moving into Manhattan, looking for a place to rent. They have nowhere to go.
So they're looking for the free market units again, because
that's all that's available. Well, the rent stabilized units don't come on the market because those tenants never leave.
Never leave.
Right. So those are gone.
Uh-huh.
So those are locked. The free market units, there's only a limited supply of them, and no one has anywhere to live. So what happens to the rents? They just keep climbing.
On those free market units.
Exactly.
Aha. Okay. So it's not all hopeless, so to speak. There is some activity in New York.
We could talk about the activity.
Well, let's
we'll get to there.
Let's talk. So I wanted to. So now it's post 2019. We're getting back to how you're functioning in this environment. That's where we're headed to.
There you go.
So let's talk about now after 2019.
Post 2019. Right after I started ARG. So it was,
that's lovely.
Right. Right after we started ARG, it also COVID hit then too. People forget COVID showed up then.
This is great.
So we moved into our new office. The rent laws, and then COVID hit. And I remember, we weren't even in the office because we weren't allowed to be in the office. Over Zoom, we were looking at each other. We're like, what did we just do?
It's the perfect storm. Any new broker going through a challenge, listen to this one. Just started a firm.
Rent laws, COVID.
In New York. Rent laws that year, 2019. What else? COVID. Yeah, COVID. And now you have Mamdani. So
perfect storm.
You're making the question it's like it's like bombogenesis with our snowstorm.
There you go.
Getting worse and worse. Okay, good. Yeah. So now where are we?
True, getting worse and worse. So this is important. So you get to now, let's talk about where we are today. So understand as a broker, you're different. You have different risks than the market in general, right? So we're not really affected by the market going up or down. That doesn't really affect our day-to-day business. Yes, we have clients who are losing on buildings and losing properties because they have to give it back to the bank again. That story that we talked about earlier. And losing equity. But our business model doesn't really change. We just need movement.
You just need to make deals.
We need transactions. So
right.
Yes, does my transaction size go down now because the value is less? Of course. The same property used to be worth $30 million and I'm trading it now for 10. So the size of the deal is smaller, but the volume is there. And that's all I really need. As the broker, you just need the trades.
Gotcha.
And put yourself in the intersection of where the trades are.
That's the answer.
That's the answer.
So now in New York,
you're having more and more trades because a lot of people are getting out. You have a lot of people fleeing New York City, fleeing these regulations, trying to run away, move to Florida, right?
Is that really happening?
I think so.
It's not just in the newspaper.
It's not just in the newspaper.
People are actually fleeing New York.
I think fleeing New York, especially the business people, fleeing New York. But for every person that leaves, there's someone who wants to buy the building. And, again, one of my old mentors used to tell me, the greatest line that I heard in real estate. He said, Yosef, no such thing as a bad deal, just bad pricing.
Gotcha.
Greatest line.
Gotcha. I see what you're saying.
It's hanging on the wall in my office. No such thing as bad deals, just bad pricing. And it's true. There's always a price someone will pay. And your job as the broker is to establish buyer and sellers on the same playing field and make the connection.
That's what you're hyper focused on.
Correct. The market decides what people will pay. Your job now is to bring both parties to that same level.
Wow.
And make the transaction.
That's every business.
Right.
My father-in-law is a business, successful.
Right.
And I used to ask him, what does he do? He's like, I sell widgets, he told me. He was in foreign exchange, built a global brand. He told me, he says to me, I sell widgets.
I sell widgets.
Everything is just sales. It just boils down to transactions. And there were big widgets, but
right.
But that's really what you're saying. It boils down, and to stay hyper-focused on what the business is
sourcing. That's what we talked about, being able to source business. If you're going to own a business, the way you have to make money is being able to source business and be in sales. I don't care what business you're in. You could be a lawyer. You could be a doctor. You could be in financial planning. If you're able to go source business and get clients who want to be part of your sphere, you're able to make money.
I don't think there's any easy route to that, right?
No. There's no easy route. That's hard work, and it's day in and day out, and it's every day coming in and putting in the hours in the grind. You don't just wake up in the morning and, this guy wants to be my client. It never works that way.
Yeah.
It takes thousands of calls and thousands of emails and follow-ups and chasing. And then the business comes in the back door. That's usually what happens.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I agree. And that's important for everyone to understand, especially in real estate, because that's catching me a little bit by surprise. I have this image of a guy who just got out of BMG.
Right.
And he's still got the white shirt with the coffee stains and the tzitzis and everything. And
there you go.
He's doing real estate, and he's got the best deal ever in Kansas,
Right. Well, listen, there's a reason, unfortunately, you see all those crashes. There was a lot of that going on, and maybe you need a podcast on that, of all the why people invest in Jewish guys who don't know what they're doing. That's another. Find the guest for that, because it's definitely a hot topic.
I actually, it's crazy. I do have someone who I'm working on who is completely screwed. Do people get screwed in real estate?
We're seeing it all. Again, we're seeing it all over. What's interesting about investing with other people? I have a good friend he's a doctor in the 5 towns. And he's been investing with people for 20 years. So he was saying, I said, we were having a conversation about investing with other people as a small piece. And I said, what does it look like for you? He said, Yosef, I've put out, I think his number was $25 million over the last 20 years. He says, and I think it's about 100 different deals he's invested in. And he says, I'm right back where I started.
Are you serious?
He says, I haven't made any money. I'm like, why is that? He says, what happens is, you invest with all these people, and most of them do okay.
Right.
But when they do okay, the investor doesn't really get rich. The investor just does okay. He makes 10, 12, 15% on his money.
Right.
The guy who put the deal together makes money. He makes all the fees.
Right.
And all the transaction fees. And when the deal hits a home run, he'll get his promote and he'll make his money. But the investor doesn't really do amazing. And then balance that with the deals that went sideways. He said, out of 100, I think 8 of them, I lost all my money.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I look back at it, a 20-year run, I'm left with to say, I should have put it somewhere else. I'm like, maybe you should have.
Yes, I agree. Put it in the S&P and you'd
Correct.
be...
So you see a lot of that. You see a lot of that. And it's an interesting conversation why I think you have it with the Jewish world. And they run to invest with the guy in shul who sits next to them and has the fancy watch and, the fancy car. And he must know what he's doing. And unfortunately, there's too much of it. There's too much of it. What are you seeing now? When the times get tough and you read all the stories, unfortunately.
Yes.
But you invested with people who didn't have any experience and didn't know what you're doing. And yes, their shver might have owned the building 20 years ago, but that doesn't give them the right or the ability when the going gets tough. So
that's what we saw. We saw, and I'm telling you this from clients who work with me. Right. They have, they send me their tax returns and they have K1s for properties. I'm like, well, what do you do with these properties? Like, I don't know. My money's gone at this point.
Right.
The guy who invested it for me is, I'm not sure if he's in the business or he's gone. I don't know where he is. Exactly. Maybe he's in jail. I don't know. But that's because people, they don't know. You have to be.
But they choose to not know. They choose to not know. So if you're investing your money, do your homework. Do your homework. And then what I do say, make sure you're investing, you know who you're investing with. Try to cut out the middlemen. Those where a lot of the problems start. Where it's the guy who, I raised $10 million together and I invest it, and you don't even know who he invested it with.
Wow.
So take your time, read it through. Everyone, it's all public, and find out who the guy is, and then go meet him. Right. Meet the guy who's actually making the decisions on the property you invested in. If you can't do that, you shouldn't be investing in.
So that's a good, I think, transition to real estate. Like we talk about the career, but now real estate as an investment asset class.
Right.
Just to understand that a little bit. You personally, right? I know people swear by real estate as the greatest investment ever created. Now you're in the field. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that? Let's say a portion of your money. Is it only in real estate, or what do you believe it as an investment?
Okay, so again, investment strategies, this is your forte, but investment strategies, never put everything in one basket.
Even
real estate.
Even real estate.
Even real estate.
Okay.
Rule number one.
Does everyone hear that? Real estate is not God's gift to mankind. Don't put all your money in real estate. Don't put it all in real estate.
There you go.
Okay.
Diversity is key, obviously. Obviously,
yes.
Diversity is key.
Right.
So definitely choose different places. You're never gonna know. Take the rent laws of 2019. Who would have thought?
Right.
Who would have thought? So
New York,
right. They could change rules on you. So never have all your money in one place. That's rule number one. That being said, real estate in general, if it's a long-term investment, great place to be. Don't look at it as the quick rich. It's not what it's for. Real estate is, number one, the depreciation is huge. And you could talk more about that. That's why people come back to real estate. And as long as there's leverage in real estate, people will keep investing.
So let me jump right in. Sorry, Yossi, because I know that's what you said. Depreciation is when you make income off of a real estate property, you don't have to pay taxes on that because it's offset by the depreciating value of what you're invested in.
Correct.
Basically.
Correct. And you have, I believe it's 39 years? 39-year schedule. You got depreciation. So it's considered clean income, right? Because you have these phantom expenses that they call it. Although you pay it back when you sell the building.
When you sell it, you capture
everyone's like, oh, it's free. It's not free because you recapture it.
You capture it when you sell. But as you go along, the income you get is...
Whatever, correct. But the income that comes in is...
tax-free. That's important for people to know basic knowledge.
And it's why people. So that's step one of why people invest in real estate. And step two is there's leverage.
Right.
So leverage allows you the ability, simple idea of leverage is, hey, I could take my return. As long as I'm borrowing, here's the simple idea of leverage.
Yes.
As long as I'm borrowing from the bank at a cheaper rate than my unlevered return is, I borrow as much as I can. So simple. If I would get 5% on my money if I buy it all cash, now if I borrow from the bank at 3%, my return goes from 5% up to about a 7.5%, right? Obviously, its inverse is correct. Never take a mortgage that's more expensive than your return of the property.
Yeah.
Or better yet, don't buy the property if your mortgage cost is more than your actual return, unless obviously there's a turnaround play and hey, there's something to do. But don't make that mistake.
Yeah, that's a good one. Don't borrow at a greater price than your return.
There you go.
I guess people have made that mistake.
You should add that as a rule, right?
Yeah, I think, well, hopefully it goes without saying. But it's similar in stocks with margin. You borrow the stock at a 2% interest rate and you make 8% on it. So you've just made 6% between what you pay for that borrowing and the return.
Exactly.
So you end up making, that's what
Same concept. Although real estate loans, you get these long-term loans, right? You get these 5 and 7 and 10-year loans. Sometimes you get as long as a 30-year loan if you go to these Fannie Mae programs and these Freddie programs and the city-backed programs. So
you have much more time.
But real estate shouldn't be it's not a quick rich scheme. It's a long-term investment. It's something you invest for your kids and for generations to come. If that's your play in real estate, you should be investing in real estate.
But again, even long-term, you're saying not to just put it all in one basket, really to have other asset classes besides real estate, right?
Yes.
I just want to make sure.
Different asset classes. Some should be in the market, right?
Some in the markets.
Maybe some life insurance, right? You could sell them on some stuff, but definitely spread it. And even in real estate, spread it among classes. It shouldn't all be in one, right? Apartment buildings in New York City, no.
Right. That's also good.
Buy a shopping center, buy an industrial property, go invest in Kansas, Florida. Mm-hmm. So spread it. Even in real estate, spread it out as much as you can. Diversify is the key to anything.
Okay, so I have a couple more things to ask. Maybe just give us a basic overview of the different asset classes within real estate. Terms that come to my mind are commercial, industrial, residential. Okay. So is that, what are the basic terms?
Those are 3 big ones. However, so residential, but the way it's used, the residential is usually the single family houses is considered residential.
Right.
Industrial is kind of easy because that's the big industrial properties. Commercial encompasses a lot.
Okay.
So when we say Atlas Realty Group is a commercial real estate broker,
right,
we encompass a lot. So it's the multifamily properties, which are considered commercial as well. So that's the 6-story elevators you walk up and down, or the
people renting.
The 4-story walk-ups, correct. Multi-tenanted housing is considered commercial property. Right. That's the residential. There's also the retail properties fall under the commercial tone as well. So that's the shopping centers, the strip malls, the stores underneath, the 3-4 stores, the mom and pops, the single tenanted stores. So the Starbucks and the Chipotle's, there's just the single tenanted stores that are out there that became very popular. Those are all fall under the commercial. So under commercial, there's a couple different ones. There's the multifamily, there's the retail, and then the last one I would say would be the development side of it.
Right.
Which is also something we're very active in. So selling either raw land or vacant buildings that someone's going to take down and put up a big 6-story building or a 10-story building or a couple hundred units. We do that as well, which is obviously very popular now.
In Lakewood.
Yeah, in Lakewood, in New York City, very popular.
Developmental, yeah?
It's very popular. Yeah, it's driven by tax incentives. The city has a bunch of different programs involved, and they give you tax incentives and long-term abatements and why people buy it. The trade-off is, again, we could talk about it, but the trade-off is you have to give some of those apartments back as affordable.
Right.
That's the trade-off. So you give 30% of those units back as affordable, and for that tax basis. But it keeps pricing down and allows people to build. So without it, no one would be building.
Would you say, again, for a starting broker to pick and choose an area, or it doesn't make that much of a difference? It sort of shapes its way as you move in the group.
It definitely shapes its way. I mean, there's different models in the brokering industry. So different shops run things different ways. There's some shops who they have territory system. That's the 2 main models. So it's not what we do. But there's other shops who have a territory system, which is you get this certain area. So you'll get these 20 blocks. Pick in Brooklyn, these are your 20 blocks, and you're only allowed working in these 20 blocks.
If you're in which side of real estate? Like what
As a broker.
As a broker.
As a broker.
Okay.
They'll give out different areas to new brokers coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's your area. And it's an interesting model. It's limiting, right? Because you could only work on this specific area. At the same time, when you own a shop, it's, hey, now this broker knows every single owner in that area. So his job is to know every single building. In fact, there was an old brokerage when I first started called Massey Knackle. No longer around. He actually sold out. But his famous thing that he used to have the brokers do is you had to take a picture of every single building in your territory when you first started.
With a Kodak or something.
With a Kodak. So the first 6 months on the job, you had to take a picture of every single building. Now we have Google Street View and and it's all there. There's no point. But
right. And you have to get a camera.
Yeah. I think he used to give them a camera. I think he gave them a camera and they had to take a picture of every single building in the area, in their territory. That was your job for the first 6 months.
Wow.
But now, so there is definitely the territory system. And again, when I start, I always have, when brokers come in day one, after we give them their training, and we do have an extensive training process for the kids, and we give them senior broker to work with them. But day one, we always start in one area. Pick an area, start there, but then move. Then move on and call every building, go down the list and block by block and house by house, apartment by apartment, and call every single person and find out what's going on.
Wow. And when you hire a new broker, I know there's a popular thing called a draw.
Sometimes.
How do you structure compensation for new brokers when you bring them in?
So most new brokers don't get anything, actually. We actually don't give draws to start.
You don't give draws, right?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Once he's there, we've done it sometimes. Someone who's been there 6 months to a year and needs some help, we've done that for them.
Mm-hmm.
But the turnover is so large.
Right.
Turnover is so large.
No,
it doesn't make business sense. It doesn't make business sense to be giving draws. I think you'd be out of business if you just decide to give every person a draw.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you say that this field is different? Because I know in mortgages a lot they give draws. Is that also
I think they used to. I don't think a lot of people do that anymore.
Because of the turnover, whatever.
Turnover is tremendous, right? You got to be committed. Again, that's a big thing I try to do. Like I turn down a lot more people than I take.
Okay.
And I feel a little bit of a Christ to them. Like I don't want to take someone who's going to fail.
Right, of course.
And sit there for a year and then just be miserable. This business isn't for everybody. It isn't. You have to be able to put your head to it without a salary coming in, without a paycheck at the end of the week.
Right.
That's hard for a lot of people.
Right.
There's a lot of, especially a young married guy. He has a family. He has a kid. Unless someone's supporting him, it's not for you.
Right.
That's important. It's important to you. And there's nothing wrong with saying this isn't the business for me. I do like the kids who start earlier. The single guy who's still living at home. That's the guys who have a better shot at success. But even then, the fail rate is, again, it's over 80%, 85%. Might even be higher.
So how do you get recruits? I'm curious, from your personal business, how you get recruits, and how do you do marketing, and what does marketing do for you?
Marketing, good question, greatest question. What does marketing do?
Right, because you're really just creating relationships. I mean, I don't see someone doing a business deal by seeing your brochure.
Yeah, so you don't see it. I think, to me, maybe I'm wrong, but to me, marketing is just brand awareness.
Right.
In our field. So my goal is when my guys, or I pick up the phone, and again, I'm cold calling, and I get on the phone and say, hey, this is Yosef Katz from ARG, the guy knows who I am. If that happens, that means my marketing's doing great. So that's the goal. Now, obviously, we're not always successful, but that's the goal. It's about, and again, when someone's selling a building, it's the same then. Marketing is being there that when he said, hey, I want to sell my building, who should I call? Right? He wakes up and he comes out of his investor meeting, or he talks to his wife and he's like, okay, we're done. We're selling our property. Who does he call? So if your cup is on his desk,
right,
or you just sent him an email last week, hey, guess who he's calling? So again, I tell the guys all the time, your job is not, you're never going to convince someone to sell. You just have to be there when he's ready.
So that's, I think, a good piece of business advice, how marketing, because many people want to see lead generation, from their marketing. Like,
right.
How is me sponsoring, putting my thing on a billboard going to lead to leads? It doesn't always work like that. It's branding. Like you said, if someone's ready to buy your name because you sponsored that sports team, they realize you are a brand.
There you go.
Right.
Or if you're in front of him and, hey, maybe that tilts it your way. There's a couple of brokers competing for his listing.
Right.
He's like, oh, hey, they sponsored this, or I saw the name, and hey, or I've seen that they just sold X, Y, and Z, and they just sold a building next to me because. So there you go. That's a lot of marketing. To me, that's what it is. I might be wrong, but
no, I agree.
That's what I believe.
I really agree
in our businesses, as opposed to where you're business to business, as opposed to direct to consumer.
Right.
Yeah.
I really believe in that. Someone's active in social media. Someone, is posting statuses.
Right. No, important. Statuses are important.
It really works.
Statuses are important. Get out there. Again, we push it. I know you do a lot of it. Your statuses, great statuses, by the way.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I didn't even know until I did it, and then got some good feedback. I post my smoothies. I'm like all the random stupid things. But people are really inspired by my morning smoothies.
By your morning smoothie. We just did something with donuts over Hanukkah.
I saw that.
There
also.
You go. All of a sudden, everyone's reaching out.
But I knew Cafe Chocolat was going to win.
There you go.
Right? They won. I knew from the beginning. It was a no-brainer. I mean, they're the most expensive also. Yeah. But, Cafe Chocolat donuts during anyone feels that they need a good fix. And also a side hustle of, we always speak about side hustles. Yossi is a donut taster. And he can help you figure out the best donut for, the calories.
We stick to just Hanukkah now because it's the calories.
Just Hanukkah, but it's an exploding business, really,
Exactly.
Sorry, we digress. Okay, Yossi, so we've covered a lot of topics, and it's great to see someone who's been in the field for over 20 years and still shows up to work every day with the same passion, the same excitement, maybe even more passion and more excitement than when you started.
Possible.
Yeah, it's like you're not even burnt out. Like, wow. Right. It's like already like, wow. I think I saw a stat once that the average person changes careers 6 times. Some kind of thing like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, hopefully it's not true. What gets you to show up to work every single day? In popular language, it's called the why, W-H-Y, the why. And I feel it's important for people to hear that because they can see a picture of the long game and say, real estate does work for me, and here's, a path for me to get to that point. So what is driving you?
What's the why? What's the why? What's the drive? Great question. And again, I tell my wife all the time, I'm blessed what I do. I'm blessed what I do because I love doing it. Famous. I like how Rusa used to tell me. I remember back when we were in the yeshiva. Go back to the yeshiva days, right? And he was learning Bein Hazmanim, right? And I'm looking. I'm like, what are you learning, right? He's like, you don't realize I'm always on Bein Hazmanim because I love learning.
That's great.
Such a deep thought. Right? He's like, I'm always on Bein Hazmanim. So it applies to work. If you love what you're doing, you're never working. And thank God it's something I love. So the challenge is why? And why do I love it? So every day is something different. Yes, it's about doing the same thing every day and making the same call, making the calls and putting in the hours and the grind. But every deal is different. In fact, now what I like, yes, obviously you love to close deals and you love the transactions. And being successful is obviously great. But each deal, figuring it out, there's a puzzle. There's a puzzle to every deal. And why? And we try to drive it into my young guys. Your job, we follow what we call the transfers. And every the guy in my office job is to follow the transfers, which is every building that sells in New York City. And my job that I give them is you have to call each buyer and each seller and ask them that question. Why? Why did you sell and why did you buy? And if you could answer that question, you're on the road to being successful. So why does people sell these assets? Now, there's a lot of different reasons. There's, again, they call the 3 big Ds is why people sell, is debt, divorce, and death. That's the 3 Ds of real estate, why people sell.
Okay.
But there's a lot of other reasons. People wake up one morning and, hey, it's too hard for me. I can no longer manage it, right? My kids don't want to be in the business. Or, hey, this building's losing. I have a problem tenant. He's making me miserable and I don't want to be there. There's 100 reasons why people sell. But you have to understand why. If you can, now you'll know, hey, is he selling something else? Or maybe the guy next door is selling, right? And the same thing for the buyer. Understand why he buys. And real estate's fascinating like that. We have buyers, again, the stories you hear, they're amazing. But we have guys, he only likes corner elevator buildings. Why? I don't know. That's what he likes. Because the first building he bought was a corner elevator. He made tons of money. He only buys corner elevator buildings. And we have guys who only buy buildings, that we call them pre-1940s, where they have the sunken living rooms and they're a little nicer. He believes those are the best buildings to buy. Why? Who knows? That's what he likes. But we have buyers who literally in their bio will sit there and talk about, we know that's his building because it's the corner elevator, or it's the pre-1940s, or it's, hey, it has the boiler that he likes. So he's buying the building. And it could be one phone call sometimes. I'll walk into a building, I'm like, okay, I know who I'm calling, right? Or it's simpler than that. His management office is on the block. We do that all the time. Mm-hmm. He works there every day, right? Or he owns the building down the block and his super, he could use the same super for both buildings. So that's for him. So it's not just the marketing and you take a listing and, hey, let's see who's going to buy it. We target those buyers. In fact, we go the other way sometimes. I know someone's looking for something. I'll go target a seller. And we call them and say, hey, I have the guy who wants to buy your building for whatever the reason is, but I know that. So that part about real estate is the exciting part. The puzzle and understanding the circle and why it's happening. And when you do transactions like that, the reward is amazing.
I'm hearing the excitement of the really a relationship factor.
For sure. It's all about relationships.
Like, that Shmendrik G likes buildings that have red bricks.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's Michigasson.
So we call red bricks. Yeah. Again, real estate is about, it all boils down to relationships. It's so important. It's all relationships. And I like to say it's not about who's nowadays, right? Everybody has everybody's number.
Right.
Right. And we do this with the young kids also. I'm like, okay, here's this guy's number, a billionaire investor. I'm like, here's his number, his cell phone, call him. And the guy calls him, the young guy in office calls him, and of course he doesn't pick up, right? He's not picking up. He doesn't know who you are.
Right.
Right. And then I call him, and he's like, hey, Joseph, what's going on? So I'm like, it's not about whose number you have. It's about who has your number in their phone. Mm-hmm. Classic line. I love it. Right. So true. So again, relationships, obviously, most important part of this business.
Wow. I really feel like your training in your firm is valuable. Wow, it's really, it opens up my mind. Right. Wow, okay, Yossi. I was enthralled by your presentation. We'll wrap up just with the, last question. Where do you think, real estate is headed to in the near future? Do you think we're going to see a recovery soon, or...?
I think New York City's it has to see some. I mean, listen, New York City's cyclical. It's always been cyclical. The real estate market. Back in the 60s and 70s, you talk about the Bronx is burning and go read history. The Bronx was actually burning, by the way. It's not just a movie.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was actually burning.
Oh, okay, good.
So it's cyclical, and there was the hard times then. You look at when those generation were buying, they couldn't collect the rent. The regulations were there. It was rough. But they came in and they bought, and they created generational wealth through the 80s and the 90s. So is it coming back? The answer is yes. I just don't know when. I don't know when. I don't think anybody could tell you when. That being said, now is the first time since I'm in the business where you could actually make money running buildings again. I mean, it's a longer conversation, but the market changed where it wasn't about actually making money on the rents. It was about valuations and creating these crazy valuations and selling it to the next guy or refinancing. That was the only way to really make money. Now you could actually make money the old school way, running the buildings. And it's a monthly check, and your expenses are less than your income, and every month you get a check. It's the first time since I'm in the business that we're back to the fundamentals. Really? So if you're able to manage and you're able to run this product, it's the time to be buying right now. And there's a reason the market's on fire. Mm-hmm. There's so many deals trading right now. Mm-hmm. And again, we're seeing the excitement come back. Pricing is still well depressed. So get it now.
Right.
Because once it jumps, it's going to rebound fast. That's what you're going to see. So whenever that time comes, I don't know. It might be a year. It might be 5 years. It might be 10. New York's coming back eventually.
I mean, with the interest rates going down and all that stuff, like in general, you see real estate picking up. I mean, and what about for outside New York? Like
volume's up. Volume in New York is up tremendously.
Okay.
Tremendously. Year over year. Like I said, right now we're closing a deal a week in the office. The market in general is up 300% quarter over quarter. So New York City's on absolute fire right now.
It's crazy.
But yes, pricing is way depressed. You gotta be ready to jump in. It's not easy. It's not easy. You gotta know how to manage this product. It's it's tough. Talk to the guys who manage it. I'm sure you could have one of those guys in, tell you how hard it is, and the regulations. It's
they call you at night with the toilet broke.
It's a grind. And you're working for your tenants. They call you, you run, because you don't want them calling the city. So, yeah. Because if you don't come, jump, run, they call the city and you have a violation. And then you're paying a $500 fine. So, yeah, people are jumping. So you have to, it's an intensive management business. But if you could stomach that part, you should be buying. Now's the time to build generational wealth.
Wow.
Once again.
Oh, wow. Okay. So we've reached our time limit, really. I would think there's a lot to talk about. It's great. It's really, I learned so much from this. Again, I know I have an outside exposure to real estate. I don't know the ins and outs, but I think it's going to be helpful for our audience to see, really, we went from A to Z, I think.
I think we covered a lot.
We covered a lot.
You did a great job, by the way.
Thank you very much. That's what it's all about, me doing a great job. But I do appreciate a compliment in my thankless job every once in a while.
There you go.
Please don't have pity on me. Great. No, but really, I enjoy this. And I think that really any real estate broker who wants to get into business, this is perfect for them. If I would be doing it, I want to hear something like this. Right. And I'd want to join your firm also, to be honest with you, ARG.
There you go. I'd like to plug.
Well, we didn't discuss it before. But yeah, you train from scratch and doing it right, fundamentally correctly.
Exactly.
I mean, Yossi, it was really a pleasure to have you. Is there any final thoughts you want to bring out that you think is good advice?
I think we covered everything. Again, It was a pleasure being here. Honor. We had fun, which is most important.
That's right.
All right. Time flew. I liked it. I think hopefully we taught people a lot.
Yes.
Hopefully people got something out of it.
Yes.
And again, if anyone you need, ask people who want to join the podcast, come join. It's a lot of fun being here.
Oh, that's great.
Get on the podcast. Let's blow it up.
Thank you very much.
Let's get the views going.
Oh, yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. I was also going to make a shout out here that Yossi is the one that has a lot of hair. I've been before my podcast. I always have to offer my brush, and it hasn't been used. But Yossi has hair, so obviously he's not under a lot of stress in his job, which is great.
I don't know about that. It comes from my dad. My dad still has a full head of hair, and he's 81. So
genetic. Okay, genetics. All right. You're also a humble person.
There you go.
Anyways, thank you so much. It was really a pleasure, and. Feedback. Everyone should give feedback. We always appreciate it. We're learning a lot from the feedback of what to put on the podcast and,
there you go.
And what not to put on also. So we look forward to hearing from you.
Amazing. If people want to find me, I'm easy to find online. So look me up, find me, ask me questions.
What's the website?
Website is arg-re.com. I'm on LinkedIn, and my numbers are all over the brokers. We don't hide.
We don't hide.
We don't hide.
Like you said.
Exactly. We're out there. Easy to find.
arg.re. arg-re.com. Atlas Realty Group. Amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Very good.